Ivan Lendl was watching his dream slip away again. The Czech player had already lost 4 Grand Slam finals, and John McEnroe was destroying him on the biggest stage in tennis. McEnroe was on a 42-match winning streak and looked unstoppable. This was Roland Garros in June 1984 on the red clay courts of Paris. McEnroe was the world #1 and had never won the French Open, the only major missing from his collection. He dominated the first 2 sets, winning 6-3, 6-2, hitting around 65% of his first serves and making Lendl look ordinary. The American was playing perfect tennis, controlling every rally with his serve and volley style. The crowd was getting restless, expecting another Lendl final defeat. But something strange happened in the 3rd set. The Parisian crowd started getting louder, and McEnroe seemed to lose his composure. The noise was affecting his concentration, and his usually precise volleys started missing their mark. Lendl sensed the opportunity and began hitting harder from the baseline, using his powerful ground strokes to push McEnroe back. He broke serve at 5-4 to win the 3rd set 6-4, and suddenly the momentum shifted completely. In the 4th set, even though McEnroe led 4-2, Lendl's relentless pressure started paying off. The Czech player was hitting winners from both wings, and McEnroe's movement at the net became hesitant. Lendl fought back to win 7-5, leveling the match at 2 sets all. The crowd was now fully behind the underdog, sensing tennis history in the making. The 5th set saw Lendl complete the comeback with a 7-5 victory in 4 hours and 8 minutes match. This was Lendl's first Grand Slam title after 3 final defeats. Since the US Open in 1982 final played against Jimmy Connors, McEnroe never won the French Open, and this loss haunted him for years. Lendl went on to win 3 French Opens and became one of the greatest clay court players back then. Speaking of the impossible becoming possible, let's jump forward to 1999. Andre Agassi was getting humiliated on the biggest stage in tennis. The American superstar was down 6-1, 6-2 to a player ranked 20th in the world, and his dream of completing the career Grand Slam was turning into a nightmare. This was Roland Garros in June 1999. Agassi, who had returned to world #1, was trying to become the first man in 30 years to win all 4 Grand Slams. His opponent, Andriy Medvedev from Ukraine, was playing in his only Grand Slam final. For the first 2 sets, Medvedev was hitting winners from everywhere, using his powerful forehand to dictate play. Agassi looked completely lost on the clay courts he'd always struggled with, making unforced errors and appearing frustrated with every point. The statistics were brutal. Medvedev had hit 20 winners to Agassi's 8, and the American had already committed 15 unforced errors. The crowd was stunned, watching one of tennis's biggest stars getting dismantled by a relative unknown. Agassi's movement looked sluggish, and his famous return of serve was nowhere to be found. After just 90 minutes, it seemed like the match was effectively over. Then the rain came. During the delay, Agassi's coach Brad Gilbert gave him the pep talk of his life. Gilbert told him to be more aggressive, to take the ball earlier, and to use his experience. When play resumed after 20 minutes, Agassi was a completely different player. His body language changed, his shots became more precise, and suddenly he was dictating points instead of reacting to them. He broke Medvedev at 5-4 to win the 3rd set 6-4, and the crowd began to believe. The 4th set was even more dominant. Agassi won 6-3, hitting 12 winners and making only 3 unforced errors. His famous return was back, and Medvedev started feeling the pressure of serving for his first and only Grand Slam title. In the 5th set, despite hitting 14 double faults in the match, Agassi's mental strength shone through. He won 6-4, completing one of the most remarkable turnarounds in tennis history. This victory completed Agassi's career Grand Slam and cemented his return to the top of tennis after he dropped to number 140 in 1997. Medvedev never reached another Grand Slam final, making this comeback even more remarkable. But clay court comebacks aren't just about rain delays. Let's talk about what happened in 1974. If you're loving this video, subscribe now and help us hit 5,000 tennis fans by month's end. 18-year-old Bjorn Borg was getting outplayed by a crafty veteran who was using every trick in the book. Manuel Orantes was controlling the points with clever shot placement and tactical brilliance, and it looked like Borg's first Grand Slam final would end in disappointment. This was Roland Garros in June 1974. Orantes, the world #2, was a clay court specialist who knew how to use the surface to his advantage. He was 25 years old, with years of experience on the professional tour, while Borg was still a teenager learning his craft. Orantes won the first set 6-2 with smart tactics, using drop shots and angles to move the young Swede around the court. His variety was causing Borg all sorts of problems. The second set was even more dominant for the Spaniard. He took it 6-1, hitting winners from impossible positions and making Borg look like an amateur. The teenager's famous topspin wasn't working on this day. His shots were landing short, and Orantes was punishing every weak ball. The crowd was appreciating Orantes' artistry, but many felt sorry for the young Borg, who seemed overwhelmed by the occasion. But then something remarkable happened. Between the second and third sets, Borg made tactical adjustments that would define his entire career. He began hitting the ball harder and deeper, using more topspin to push Arantes back behind the baseline. Instead of trying to match the Spaniard's variety, he decided to overpower him with raw athleticism and relentless pressure. The third set was a complete reversal. Borg won 6-0, hitting 10 winners and making only 2 unforced errors. His shots were now landing deep in the corners, and Arantes couldn't handle the pace. The fourth set was 6-1, and the fifth was 6-1. In just over an hour, Borg had won 18 of the last 20 games, completely turning the match around. Arantes, who had looked so comfortable early on, suddenly couldn't handle the pace and power. His clever tactics were useless against Borg's relentless baseline assault. This was Borg's first Grand Slam title and the beginning of one of tennis's greatest dynasties. He went on to win 6 French Opens and became the king of clay, showing that sometimes the best tactic is simply hitting the ball harder than your opponent. But if you think that was dramatic, wait until you hear about what happened in Argentina. Gaston Gaudio was suffering the most lopsided beatdown in Grand Slam final history. His fellow Argentine Guillermo Coria had just won the first set 6-0, a bagel in tennis terms, and was cruising through the second set 6-3. This wasn't just a loss, it was complete and utter domination. This was Roland Garros, June 6, 2004, and both players were from Argentina, making it extra special for South American tennis. The entire country was watching as two of their own battled for tennis immortality. Coria was the world number 3 and the heavy favorite, having beaten Gaudio in all their previous meetings. He was known as El Mago, the magician, for his incredible shot-making ability and court coverage. Gaudio was ranked 34th and unseeded. Nobody gave him a chance. After losing the first set without winning a single game, hitting only 3 winners to Coria's 12, it looked like the match would be over in straight sets. Coria was playing perfect tennis, hitting angles that seemed impossible and retrieving every ball Gaudio threw at him. The statistics were embarrassing. Gaudio had won only 12 points in the entire first set. But tennis is unpredictable, and physical fitness plays a huge role in 5-set matches. Coria had played some grueling matches to reach the final, and the pressure of playing for his first Grand Slam was enormous. In the third set, Gaudio began to find his rhythm, winning 6-4 and giving himself hope. The crowd started getting behind the underdog, sensing that something special might be happening. The fourth set was where everything changed. Coria started cramping in his legs, a problem that had plagued him throughout his career. His movement became labored, and suddenly Gaudio was dictating points. The unseeded Argentine won the fourth set 6-1, and the match was level at 2 sets all. Coria was receiving medical treatment, but the damage was done. His confidence was shattered. In the fifth set, Coria actually led 6-4 and served for the championship, but couldn't close it out. At 6-5, Coria was serving for the match and had 2 match points, but Gaudio saved both as Coria hit crucial shots wide under the pressure. The set went to 6-6 with Gaudio serving. The unseeded Argentine held his nerve to go up 7-6, putting the pressure back on Coria. When Coria served at 6-7, Gaudio broke serve to win 8-6 in an epic finale that lasted over 3 hours. This was Gaudio's only Grand Slam title, and he became the first man to win a Slam final after losing a set 6-0. Coria never won a Grand Slam, making this loss one of the most heartbreaking in tennis history. Speaking of heartbreak turning into triumph, let's talk about a more recent classic. Novak Djokovic was getting schooled by a 22-year-old who was playing the tennis of his life. Stefanos Tsitsipas had just beaten Alexander Zverev in a grueling 5-set semifinal and was 2 sets away from his first Grand Slam title, leading 7-6, 8, 6-2. The Greek player looked unstoppable. This was Roland Garros on June 13, 2021, on the clay courts of Paris. Tsitsipas was playing with incredible confidence, having just achieved one of the biggest wins of his career by defeating Zverev after leading 2 sets to love. His forehand was on fire, and he won the first set in a dramatic tiebreak 8-6, then dominated the second set 6-2 with 18 winners. Djokovic, meanwhile, looked tired and sluggish after his brutal 4-set semifinal victory against Rafael Nadal just 2 days earlier. The Serbian was making uncharacteristic errors, particularly on his usually reliable backhand. Tsitsipas was dictating play with his aggressive style, coming forward to the net and finishing points with authority. The crowd was firmly behind the young Greek, who was just 120 minutes away from tennis immortality. His serve was working perfectly, winning 75% of first serve points, and Djokovic seemed to have no answers. But Djokovic is one of the greatest tennis players for a reason. Between the second and third sets, he completely changed his tactics. Instead of playing defensively, he became more aggressive, taking the ball earlier and moving forward in the court. He started targeting Tsitsipas' backhand, which had been the weaker wing, throughout the match. The third set was a masterclass in tactical adjustment. Djokovic broke Tsitsipas early and won 6-3, suddenly looking like the player who had won 18 Grand Slams. His movement improved dramatically, and his shots became more precise. The fourth set was even more dominant. Djokovic won at 6-2, hitting 15 winners and making only 4 unforced errors. By the fifth set, the momentum had completely shifted. Tsitsipas, who had looked so confident early on, was now making errors and showing signs of nerves. Djokovic's experience showed as he controlled the final set, winning 6-4 with authority. The crowd was stunned. They had witnessed one of the greatest comebacks in French Open history. This was Djokovic's 19th Grand Slam and second French Open title. It kept him on track for the calendar Grand Slam, winning all 4 majors in 1 year. However, Medvedev won the US Open and stopped him. More importantly, it showed that even when you're down and out, champions find a way to turn matches around. Now let's talk about a comeback that happened just 3 years ago. Jannik Sinner was getting absolutely destroyed in the biggest match of his life. Down 2-0 in his first Grand Slam final, facing one of the best players in the world, and looking like he was about to become another footnote in tennis history. The scoreboard read 6-3, 6-3, and it seemed like the match was effectively over. This was January 2024 in Melbourne, Australia, under the scorching summer sun. Sinner, just 22 years old and ranked number 5, was playing Daniil Medvedev, the number 3 player who had already won a Grand Slam and reached multiple finals. For an hour and a half, Medvedev was playing perfect tennis, winning 65% of his first serve points and making Sinner look like he didn't belong on the same court. The Russian was using his incredible reach and defensive skills to neutralize Sinner's power, then counterattacking with precision. His serve was working perfectly, hitting 8 aces in the first 2 sets, and Sinner couldn't find a way to break through. The Italian had managed only 2 break points in the entire match so far, and both were saved comfortably by Medvedev. Everyone watching thought the match was over. Sinner's team looked dejected, and even the commentators were discussing how the young Italian would learn from this experience. But champions are made in moments like these, when everything seems impossible and the pressure is at its highest. Then, something clicked in the third set. Sinner began hitting his backhand with more conviction, taking the ball earlier and moving Medvedev around the court. He broke serve at 5-4 to win the third set 6-4, and suddenly there was hope. His body language changed completely. Instead of looking defeated, he started pumping his fist and encouraging himself. The fourth set was even better. Sinner broke Medvedev, winning 6-4 with some of the best tennis of his career. His forehand, which had been missing for 2 sets, suddenly became a weapon. By the fifth set, the momentum had completely flipped. The crowd was going crazy, sensing they were witnessing something special. Sinner broke at 4-2 in the fifth set and served out the match 6-3, completing one of the most remarkable comebacks in recent memory. This wasn't just his first Grand Slam title. It marked the arrival of a new generation. By the end of 2024, he'd reached number 1 in the world. But if you think that comeback was impressive, the greatest 0-2 comeback in tennis history happened just 2 years earlier. Rafael Nadal was supposed to be done. At 35 years old, coming back from a foot injury that kept him out of Wimbledon and the US Open, he looked finished against the younger, stronger Daniil Medvedev. This was going to be the end of an era. This was Melbourne in January 2022, and the tennis world was watching what many thought would be Nadal's final Grand Slam final. He hadn't played competitive tennis in months, while Medvedev was the defending US Open champion and the clear favorite. At 26 years old, Medvedev was in his physical prime, while Nadal was clearly past his. For the first 2 sets, it looked like the predictions were correct. Medvedev was hitting bombs from the baseline, returning everything Nadal threw at him with interest. His defensive skills were on full display, making Nadal run from corner to corner. The Russian won the first set 6-2, dominating with his serve and aggressive returns. The second set went to a tiebreak, which Medvedev won 7-5-6. After 2 sets, Medvedev led 6-2, 7, 6-5, but in the third set, Nadal fought back brilliantly. At 5-4 and serving for the set, Nadal was up 40-0, 3 set points to get back into the match. The crowd was on their feet, sensing that the champion might not be finished yet. Despite looking exhausted earlier, Nadal's movement had improved, and his famous forehand was starting to find its mark again. Nadal won the third set 6-4, then the fourth 6-4. In the fifth set, both players were exhausted after more than 5 hours of tennis. Medvedev broke back to tie at 5-5, but Nadal broke again at 6 when Medvedev threw it out, then served out the match after exactly 5 hours and 24 minutes of pure drama. This victory gave Nadal his 21st Grand Slam, breaking the all-time men's record he shared with Federer and Djokovic. The tennis world called it the greatest comeback in the sport's history. By the way, if you want to subscribe, I'm going to start posting every day. Thanks. Anyway, these 7 comebacks prove that in tennis, no lead is safe and no match is over until the final point is played. And we have reached the final of our video. If you loved, please subscribe and watch our next video here.